What's up guys, Mark Page Music and Video here. Hope you're having a good time. Check it out, it's a good channel.
Hello, good afternoon and welcome back to the Inspiration stage here at the National Cycling Show. Have you all had a good day so far?
Yeah. It's great to see so many people here lining up for the Athertons.
It's fantastic, and this is the thing, we don't really need this introduction because that is why you've all flocked into the stage. Anna, how's your day been? You've been on the other stage talking all about skills.
That's it, yeah, we've got the Cycling 101 stand here at the National Cycling Show, so that's all been about tips and tricks and advice, hacks, everything to make your cycling life easier. And it's been wonderful, actually. We've been talking about anything from tow paths, gravel biking, how to index your gears, all the useful stuff.
Yeah, it's not the most exciting indexing your gears, but it is so important. And on that less exciting note, should we get our guests up here?
Yeah, let's do that. Like I say, we barely need an introduction. They've got 8 downhill world titles, 49 World Cups between them. Admittedly, Rachel's played the dominant role in those numbers. Sorry. They've got their own bike park and they've launched a bike brand under their own family name because it is pretty much a brand in itself. Please put your hands together for Rachel, Dan and G.
Hello, welcome. It's brilliant to see you all, and it is fantastic, isn't it, to be at an event in real life and not. I mean, Zoom's been great and all. No. But it's so nice to have some human contact. Have you been around the show having a look so far, or have you just arrived?
No, I've been here that entire time. Dan and Rach literally arrived about half an hour ago. But I've been here the whole time, so yeah, met lots of people, everyone's been over to the bike stand, have a look at the bikes, and yeah, it's been exciting so far.
It must be nice to have fans be able to come and meet you in real life again, to actually come and get those selfies with you and talk about what's going on.
Yeah, and especially with us having, quite a new bike company and getting to show people the bike and people are sitting on them, and kids have had a little ride around, and you don't get that online, on social media, you only get that face to face, and it's pretty cool.
Yeah, and you don't even get clean bikes at the W Bike Park, because ours are always filthy. It's nice to see them really clean here.
Is the mic on?
Hello.
1, 2, 1, 2. How often do you get to do stuff as a trio these days?
Actually quite a lot, yeah. If we can get Rach out of the house. She's apparently you've just had a baby, 4 weeks.
Yeah, don't get me on that topic yet. I'll save it for a little bit later. I mean, we'll talk about cycling and stuff, and then I would just like to ask if I'm ever going to sleep again, ever. But, no, thank you. Well, we'll come back to that. I just wanted to kick off by talking a little bit about your journey on YouTube and social media and how you did originally put yourselves out there as siblings, because when we've talked to a lot of the guys who've been on the demo track over the last couple of days, they were talking a lot about how you've got to see it as a huge part of your job now, to be present online, to keep pushing the boundaries, and to just put yourself out there. Do you feel how much of an impact you three had on that movement?
Well, I think when we were, making those early steps into the riding and, that whole kind of start of our career, it obviously wasn't as prevalent as it is now, but it was just starting to be a thing, and it wasn't something we felt like we had to do, more that we wanted to do and were kind of intrigued by it. And even now, it is a big part of what we do, but there isn't, I don't feel a pressure to do it. Our sponsors are pretty relaxed, and it's more us wanting to show what we do. It's more us you know, if we come up with an idea for a project, you know, whether it's like a big filming project like one of the ridge lines, or just, you know, messing around in the bike park with these guys, it's more just us wanting to show people what we're doing. And you know, if you're doing something you think is quite cool, then of course you want to share it, and of course you want to show everyone, you know, what daft idea you've come up with.
And that's such a big part of it, isn't it? Being authentic and not feeling like you have to make the content, but just enjoying it.
Yeah, I think it's been pretty interesting watching Rach.
Dan hates social media, so he's like...
Yeah, it's hard.
Yeah, it's hard. You do feel, I feel the pressure, and I think you feel it as well. Like
Yeah.
to put stuff out there that's, you know, people want to see, and it's kind of sometimes a bit complicated. What do people want? What are you interested in?
And it's amazing seeing you as a mum. Like, you know, it's that what you see in real life for you is actually what's happening. You know, and compared to what, you know, I'm probably putting up. Get up early, take a shot in the digger, go back to bed.
There you do. You never go back to bed.
Well, I was looking around at the audience just now. We do have quite a lot of younger people in the audience, and some of them look like possibly they weren't even born when you guys were starting out in your careers, which is terrifying, isn't it? And I think maybe for many people it's just like you've been there at the top and that was it from day one. But how did you actually get started in mountain biking and make it into a career for yourselves?
Well, it was Dan that got us into the mountain biking, and you know, he was always the one that was mad about bikes. He was the one that came up with the idea of, you know, going to race BMX and then making that switch over to race mountain bikes. Your friends, right?
He made you. Hello. I'm on a stage.
Quick phone call. Classic Rach. And yeah, he did make me. Dan was literally persuaded us into it, and then, you know, before we knew it, he was sending us down the hills, and you know, it was something we just did because Dan was doing, and we just followed him in. You know?
I remember wanting G to ride bikes so badly because I was always riding and I loved it. And I was at a friend's house and he had a bike for sale for £10, and I called G, and he was like, "Nah, I'm not interested." So I bought it for him and literally forced him to ride it.
So all of my injuries I blame on Athy now,
Yeah,
which are many.
Yeah, but before that you rode roller skates. Yeah, but it's interesting because someone asked earlier over at our stand, like, how do you get into it? And going back to the social media thing, you know, when Dan and G, well, when we all started, like Dan started riding, but why? Like, he found magazines and stuff, BMX and magazines, and that gives you inspiration. But the internet now, like social media, you know, on the one hand it's, you kind of talk negatively about it, but on the other hand it's, social media is amazing for inspiring people, and you can reach across the whole world and see people like yourself all around the globe doing it, and that's a real positive from social media, like inspiring people and having people to, you know, measure yourself against, or, you know, yeah, give you inspiration rather than just in your own little bubble as a kid.
And I think now there's such a difference in how accessible the sport is. You know, there's so many bike parks popping up, you know, there's so many places you can just turn up and ride at the weekend, and it's pretty cool to see how much the sport's grown just, you know, just in the time we've been doing it. You know, it's a very different beast to what it used to be. Suddenly so many more people seem attracted to it, so more people are coming into it, and you know, kids that are doing it are younger and younger, and you know, there's kids over on the stand that are 5, 6, 7 years old, and you know, they ask them when they can come to the bike park, or you know,
so
how they can learn to jump or do coaching days, and it's so cool to see.
So I'm aware we've only got half an hour today and there's so much to chat about, so I'm going to just leap straight into this. Career highlights, since you were forced into the sport.
Career highlights. Tricky, I'd say, you know, winning World Championship, of course, winning World Champs on the same day as Rach was, you know, massive one for me. You know, a couple of good results at Red Bull Rampage, again, you know, mind-blowing to be at that event and be in so much fear for the 2 weeks you're there building a line, and then to suddenly manage to survive it, do well, be on the podium. You know, those events like that really stick with you and stick in your mind.
And I think, Rachel, sometimes it's not even the accolades we see from the outside as the biggest, you might have a memory or a standout goosebump moment that's just, for whatever reason, so special.
So many, and like G talking about Rampage, I remember watching them at Rampage. Dan couldn't physically fit any more body armor on his body. He was trying to strap it all on, he had so much on. And then she dislocates his shoulder, and he's halfway down the mountain. I was absolutely hammered drunk, and I was like, oh my god, I've got to rescue G. And we were like trying to get to him to fit his shoulder back in. Or like World Champs when G and I won. Dan broke his collarbone that morning, and we were like, oh, we're going to go rescue him. We did the fastest run down the hill to try and get to Affy with a broken collarbone halfway down the track. And it's probably like the fastest we've ever ridden. We're like, don't worry, we're coming to rescue you. So little things like that, as well as, you know, like obviously the race wins and the success, but funny things like that stick in your mind.
The highlights of seeing your brothers crumpled on the floor.
Yeah, not the injury bits.
Not the multiple victories.
And by the way, Rach did manage to get my shoulder back in while she was drunk.
Got it covered.
Do you think that probably helps though? She uses a bit of nervous silence, just go for it.
Because I was perfectly sober.
Oh, not so enjoyable for you. And I was going to say, are you all very well versed at putting each other's bones back in place now over the years? There's no problem, I'll handle that.
What about the time you were testing the hardline jump that you built, and we were at World Champs, and we got a phone call the evening before the race. Dan's hurt himself, he dislocated his shoulder, and our mates were there with him. They were like, how do we put the shoulder back in?
Yeah, it turns out it wasn't out. It was just, it was broken off, the whole, you know, right across my shoulder there, the whole socket and everything had broken off. And everything. Yanking on it, trying
to. And I were like, just pull it hard, and they were like, he's passing out. We were like, just pull it.
We could hear these guys on the phone trying to pop his shoulder back in, pulling and moving on it.
Screaming.
Whilst his entire shoulder blade was.
There was like
shattered.
two guys holding me this way and two guys pulling on it that way, and I was literally passing out.
It wasn't.
Rach was on the phone, just pull it a bit harder.
Oh, self-diagnosing.
We don't have to do that advice anymore.
Do not call Rachel.
And on the flip side of that, some better memories.
We turn this around.
Yeah, I think a highlight for me, of course, is in Andorra when we were riding for Commensal, and all three of us won World Cup. And you know, the pressure, it kind of, I won on the first day in 4-cross. And then Rach won the next morning, and the pressure was slowly growing for G in the afternoon. He didn't have much choice.
Yeah, that was wild.
Yeah, didn't want to let the side down.
And the 2022 season is looking very different for all of you than the routine, the run-of-the-mill as it's kind of been for years and years. So where are you all at the moment?
Couldn't be a worse season, to be honest. I don't think we've done one event between us. We actually,
we're thinking about it.
You haven't done any races, have you?
No, I've been in hospital.
Yeah, for a year. And I haven't, yeah.
No, but yeah, the race season, obviously Atherton race team is still at the World Cups, and it's still, you know, there's guys still there charging hard. We had a podium last weekend with Andreas Kolb on one of the bikes, which was sick.
Yeah, first elite men's podium for the bikes, that was sick.
But yeah, for us three, I'm kind of just starting to have my eye on a date when I can get back to some racing this season, and you know, Rach is dabbling with the idea, you know, dipping her foot in every now and then. She did practice at Fort William, which was pretty cool.
Well done.
So she's tempted.
Practice this year.
She's tempted. Every race that comes around, she's umming and ahhing about it.
Yeah, G's totally underestimating his injury. Like, he had his femur pinned amongst everything else, and then they had to redo it at Christmas time. So he's like, yeah, I'm fine. He's actually a warrior, so it's pretty impressive that he's even back on the bike. You're a legend.
Yeah, so I mean, for some of the audience that aren't well versed in the details, G had a horrendous crash several months ago. Rachel, the reason that you're off the bike is for kind of much happier news.
Yeah, I had a baby. She's 10 months, 10 and a half months, so just a bit stressed because I'm trying to get to sleep right now, but it didn't work, so. Oh no, if you can hear me, go to sleep.
Yeah, please, we'll just keep our voices very soothing.
Yeah.
My partner's got my 1-month-old in the green room, so I'm sure he'll take another. That's
like,
fine.
And then like I see, when I come to events and see people with kids, I'm like, yo, respect. Like, it's so gnarly, fair play. Well done everyone.
massive.
And I was umming and
respect.
ahhing whether to come today. I was like, I can't, it's too far, like the drive. My anxiety is massive at the moment. You know, you can train and travel around the world like racing, and I thought that was stressful and hard work, but it's totally different now, like having to get, you know, pack the food, make sure they eat at the right time, sleep, and then it's just, and she was like, just come, don't be, like, just chill out. I was like, chill out. It's just,
There's your baby.
it's such a different, ball game having kids and trying to sort of focus on your own career if you even can. You know, it's such a crazy mix. So yeah, it's massive and taking a while to figure out, but it's amazing having kids. And you don't want to rush it, do you? You don't want to rush back to work or rush back to whatever, because they're only going to be little once. I'm only having one. So.
Did you have an idea of how you were going to feel after giving birth? Like, did you think, right, I'm gonna have a timeline in my head that I'll ride or I'll race again, or did you know that you would just roll with however challenging
Yeah,
it
I
might
think it's
be?
just going how you feel, really. You know, I didn't want to put any pressure on myself to return, you know, by a certain date. Sponsors are asking, people are asking, and it's impossible to know how you're going to feel, and you feel way worse than you imagine. So, and at the same time, I don't want to rush it. You know, I want to. It's my choice to have a baby, and I want to be there and enjoy it, and not. I've been racing for nearly 20 years, and it's a privilege really to be able to make that decision, not to rush back to work, and that's kind of, yeah, I feel really lucky to be able to still do, you know, some aspects of my job and be at home with her as much as I can.
So hard though when you had a baby at the top of your sport. You know, she literally went from winning World Cups to having a baby, and she's still riding unbelievably. She's so fast. You know, when we ride with her, she has a World Cup pace. So that like torn mentality to race or to stay at home is always so hard, isn't it?
Yeah, the riding, I probably ride more now than when I was racing. You know, riding every weekend at the bike park since she's been born. Really, like for me, that's kind of my time to chill out and feel like a kind of, not that you don't feel like yourself when you've had a baby, but feel like, you know, yourself. And I'm lucky to have my mum on hand, so when me and my partner get to ride at the weekends, and I feel fast, but riding a bike fast is almost the easy bit. You know, you can ride fast if you're comfortable and confident, but being strong physically takes a lot of training, a lot of gym time, a lot of work, and that's the bit that I'm struggling to do, because I'd rather have a nap than go to the gym, you know, rather than sleep or...
Oh yeah.
So that's like a real hard balance to find. Like, I can't really find the motivation to train as hard as you need to race World Cups.
For me, it's been fascinating. It's like an insight into how important that mental side is to sport and, you know, in cycling. Like it's incredible to see Rach, where, you know, she's riding her bike and physically she's just as fast. You know, she's riding just as quick and aggressive as ever she is, but the mental side is, you know, in elite sport, it's so important, and it's only the slightest shift in your mentality or your view. You know, the mental side only has to be adjusted fractionally, and it does change who you are and changes your outlook. And, you know, even though Rach has had that slight mentality shift because it's a baby, you know, after an injury, you see it in a lot of people. You know, the mental side is so important to be able to get on top of and be in control of, if you like.
Yeah, I completely agree, and I think also something you posted about is obviously the physical challenge, and I think that helps so many people, for someone at your level, to say, this is what my body's been through, I can't rush, I don't want to rush back, and actually I think it takes the pressure off everyone looking to you to say, actually I'm not ready to do whatever it might be I want to get back to.
Yeah, like you said, whether that's, you know, you're coming back from an injury or something else, you know, life-changing, or having a baby or whatever it is, you've got to respect, you know, you've got to respect that your body and give it time. And as athletes, you know, G's a case in point, you're just always rushing to come back. You're like, oh yeah, I can walk, like I can get back on the bike. You know, you're just always pushing your body, you never give it enough time. And I think it's, after having a baby, it's such a massive shift that you can't really rush it, because you will end up with another injury. And I snapped my Achilles tendon just before I got pregnant, so it's felt like everything's all happened at once. And I feel like a pressure for the women out there to come back to racing to show that you could, or that having a baby doesn't have to be the end of your career or whatever, but that in itself is a big task. So yeah, I'm not sure what will happen.
Oh, the impact you're having is massive.
Thank you.
And talking about the other baby in the room, your brand, you've been nurturing that from day one before it's even a twinkle in your mind's eye. How did that all come about? Because it's been a slow process. You haven't just jumped into it, both feet first, really quickly.
Nice segue, Anna.
Yeah, I guess the difference between what we did and how we structured the team was that from a very early age we kind of invested back into the team, and we got our own team manager, our own chefs, our own mechanics, and so that structure always stayed the same, and then sponsors would just sponsor our team, which was Atherton Racing, and so we kind of got used to building a brand, even though we weren't really sure what we were building. The structure was still there, and now we've kind of followed that through, and it's slowly grown to the point where it's become a bike company. And we knew that we put in so much work over the years. We knew we wanted to do something big and something kind of bold. And it was a funny way around that it happened, as in we knew we wanted to do this kind of thing, and we talked about a bike company in the past, but we had no idea how. We couldn't see a way to do it, because it's an enormous thing to take on, and we knew that it wasn't something we could just do alone, and you don't get up one day and just start a bike company. So it was something we had to build over a bit of time, and gradually we would meet the right people, and whether it was meeting certain engineers or other guys that would work out, and we gradually kind of started to put a small team together around us, and then it got to the point where we thought, right, there is a possibility that this could happen now, and we had to make that decision. Do we carry on, with sponsors, doing the race team as we have been in the past, or do we make that leap of faith, throw ourselves into this 100%, try and get a bike ready, and turn up the next race season with our own bike? And that off season is only a few months long, so there was a very small window where we had to make the decision, figure out how it could work, and then make it happen. So it was terrifying at the time, and it still is, but I think we all knew once we could see how it could happen, we had to go for it. We had to at least try and make it happen. And if it had been something that had been within our reach, and then we kind of let it slip, I don't think we would have regretted that for a long time. So we made the jump, we kind of committed ourselves to it, and yeah, so far it's working.
You went out to Taiwan a couple of years before, and we had that idea to do it, but how would you do it? And Dan went out there and was like,
Yeah, we were obviously thinking about it at the time. We rode for Trek, and G and Rach were kind of at the peak of their careers, so the money was good, and it's so hard to step away from that. But we started to think about it. Yeah, I went out to Taiwan and kind of looked at what was going on and how they were building the bikes out there, and it didn't really mesh with how we were pushing the sport, with events like Red Bull Hardline, and we were just starting the bike park, and everything that we were doing was pushing the sport and pushing the boundaries. And then you went out to Taiwan, and the bikes were being built by people who'd never seen these events. They were on a production line laying out carbon, and they didn't know if that bike was going to Joe Blogs or to Hardline or to World Cup. And so there was the kind of the amount of love and attention that was going into the bikes that we were riding was pretty far off the mark in my eyes. So I thought, if we're going to do it, we need to do it well, and we need to really get that attention to detail finely tuned, and that's where that additive manufacturing comes in. It's amazing.
It is amazing that the technology that we use for the bikes is basically 3D printing, which I didn't know you could do with proper metal. I thought it was like plastic glasses and stuff, and it's so cool seeing that. We have now our headquarters headquarters are in Machynlleth, where we live in mid Wales, and we just started manufacturing everything there. So the bike's literally, born and bred in the UK, in Wales there, and made. And on Fridays we have an open house at the HQ, so you can come and look around, and a couple of the engineers will show you around the machine, and you can watch the titanium. It's melted with lasers. It's so cool. It's absolutely rad. And if you can't get there, you can look on the website, and it's just mind-blowing to be able to have that kind of manufacturing in this country, in the UK, and that at the end of the line is a bike that you can literally take out and ride, and it's so cool.
And it's worked well for us, where we're riding so much and so many different projects on, to be able to be working with a team of people where we've got so much hands-on with the development. We've been developing these bikes. I think we're on around 21, 22 prototypes, and the bikes are 3D printed, they're put together, they're built, then we can go out into the forest and test them. They're ridden locally, we can hammer them, and then the week after can have another prototype built to test again. So that whole process of that whole R&D and the development side it just speeds the whole process up so much.
It's almost a curse. I think the first year that we rode our own bikes, every race was a new prototype. Because you don't have to commit to a mold. Every single bike you build is literally it's like custom built. Every bike, you can change the geometry on everything. So they were literally making changes every race, and it got to the point where we were like, we're gonna have to commit to something and actually put it out to market.
It's quite stressful. I don't think I did one run in 2019 on the same frame, combination. Like the guy, the first World Cup in Fort William, I was like, I definitely need a longer back end, and they literally printed it, they cured it in the oven, and then you drove it up on the Thursday, and I put it on the Friday, and I was like, I don't like it. And they put the other one back on, and I was like, sorry.
Classic Rachel.
Shall we take some questions from the audience?
Yeah, I think so. Running out of time. But just, who's actually seen the Atherton bikes already so far today?
Oh.
Okay, so we've still got an opportunity for maybe another 50% of everyone to head over a little bit later on. But another opportunity to raise your hands. Who's got any questions that they would like to ask? We've got some roving microphones.
We'll start in the middle here.
Who's broke the most bikes?
Oh, I don't know. That's a good question. I'd say we're pretty even.
Yeah, G hadn't really broken any, and then he broke more than once in one crack.
Yeah, one big one.
Dan's just had loads forever.
Yeah, I kind of chilled out after breaking my neck.
Oh yeah, Dan, you broke your pelvis, your knee, your kneecap, your neck, like your arms and stuff, loads of stuff.
A good stat is that I think between the three of us we've broken everything. we've taken it in turns, broken the lot.
Choose a different sport.
Thoughts on Discovery taking over the television coverage next year and rearranging EWS taking over the arrangements and stuff?
Inside man, yeah?
I think it'll be good. I think it'll work. I think it'll work well. Red Bull have done such a good job over the last 11 years, and they've really helped the sport grow to where it is now. But I think there's definitely room for a change now, and I think those guys are going to bring it to a new audience. And from what I've heard and what I've spoken to so far with the guys, organising it next year, I think it'll be good. It's going to be a tricky transition, but everyone's got used to seeing the World Cups presented so well from Red Bull. Those guys have got their work cut out, but at the same time, they're an enormous production company, and I think it's going to be bloody good.
When you're all sort of younger and didn't necessarily have your current skill set and abilities, what do you think helped push past the fear boundaries when you were trying to go sort of steeper, harder, faster and build your skills? Do you think it was to do with sibling peer pressure between yourself?
It's actually what Dan would build, so riding gnarly stuff and just not having a choice to go down it.
Yeah, luckily Athy was born with absolutely no sense. So as a child, he was just throwing himself off anything he could on a bike. So me and Rachel inevitably followed him.
Definitely peer pressure though.
if you're riding gnarly places, eventually you'll figure it out, I think.
I think more so for Rach, because me and G were kind of pushing, and Rach just kind of got dragged along. And when she first started, she was like, she didn't really enjoy riding, and then she started winning, and that was it. Coming to win.
Hated riding. But like having someone like Dan and G have always had each other, you know, you have a close friend or a sibling, or your dad or your mum, whatever, to always ride with and kind of push you. That goes really far, I think.
Okay, we've got time for one more. Last question.
Who can jump the biggest?
Who can jump the biggest?
Great question.
G can jump quite far, but he might not always land it.
Wow.
He can go really high though. Land on his head.
Brutal.
Yeah.
Dan,
Probably not Rach.
Dan's good at jumps. Dan is fantastic at jumps, in fact.
I think he actually did do a long jump contest once and managed to jump the furthest, but wasn't awarded the trophy because he didn't land on his bike.
Is that in the bus?
Another crash. No, it was
661 then?
no for dirt in the field. Big crash.
Fantastic, thank you so much. That's been a brilliant chat with you guys. Thank you to the audience as well for all your questions. Hands together from the Athertons. Okay, thanks everyone. If you've got any more questions and you felt like you didn't have the opportunity to ask them, the Athertons will be hanging out on their stand for a little while longer, so you'll be able to get some photographs, ask your questions, get some autographs, and of course check out their amazing